many prophets in the Quran, Allah Ta'ala does not call all prophets Hasur. Does not mean that we believe.
That's it. We are not asking you to go on the next speech. So you said your answer is that there were false stories. Are you listening? You are saying right now, and people are watching and listening. Don't disrespect their intelligence. You are saying that wrong stories about Isa alayhi salam stopped Allah. Wrong stories, fable, fictitious stories about Isa alayhi salam stopped who? Stopped Allah. The one who knows who's Alibul Ghaib, the one who knows the unseen as well. You are saying that the wrong stories, the false stories about Isa alayhi salam regarding alcohol and prostitutes stopped Allah from naming Isa as Hasuran. What an irony. What an irony. And you are giving the impression that you have answered. Please, brother, please don't go to this level.
I'm not giving any impression. Look, people can judge for themselves.
Answer the question now. I appreciate you answered one question.
He has already conceded that false stories cannot drive Allah to make decisions. He has already conceded. He cannot go back on that. So we have that. Now that we have that, here there are two options for him. Either Mirza believed this, which he doesn't agree with. Ahmadi is saying Mirza did not believe in this. The second option is that Allah was driven by fables to make decisions, right? Which goes against his earlier position. So now you're stuck. Ahmadi, you're actually stuck. Either you concede that Mirza believed in this, which is true, which is what the case is, because he did. We presented the other quote from Mirza as well, where he said that according to me, main manta hu. Mirza saying main manta hu, having said those things, right? So Mirza actually believed in this. That is the truth, which you're categorically denying in front of all these thousands of people who are watching. Number one. Number two, in this quote, if you don't concede that Mirza had this belief, the second point is even worse, that you have already said that cannot be true. That Allah was driven by a lie to make decisions, to deprive a noble prophet of Allah, because that's the point. Don't tell us that other prophets were not called Hasuran. That's not what we're discussing. We're discussing that Mirza gives a reason. Mirza gives a reason that Allah did not call him Hasur in the Quran because of these fables, according to you. But these are not fables according to Mirza. According to Mirza, this is the truth. That's why Mirza is saying.
He calls them fables. He calls in that.
Brother. Qissa is not a fable according to the Quran. Allah calls the story. Wait, brother, stop it. Allah calls the story of Yusuf al-Islam Ahsanul Qasas. So
you're comparing Urdu with Arabic. You know very well.
No, brother, Qissa means.
That means
brother,
it was false.
No, brother, stop playing these games.
No, you were comparing the Quran in Arabic and then
you're wasting our time. We're saying either Mirza believed this, which is the case, because your defense of Mirza is not working. Qissa doesn't mean a fable necessarily. Qissa means a story. The meaning of Qissa, literally in the Urdu language, which is my mother language, and I'm an occasional poet as well. I know the language well enough to know what Qissa means. Qissa means story. A story can be history, it can be true, and it can be false. You're claiming that these are false stories, and you have already conceded that a false story cannot drive Allah to make decisions. But in this case, you're stuck. You know why? Because if that's the case, Allah did make a decision due to a false story, according to your defense of Mirza. But if we take the other side of the coin, which is that Mirza had this belief, and he did believe in this qissa, and that's why he's saying that Yahya was called Hasur and Isa was not, because of these true stories. That's what Mirza is saying. And we believe in this theory because we have other quotes from Mirza where he's saying, Mere nazdeek Masih sharab se parhez karne wala nahi tha, jabke Masih sharab se. What more do you need in the Urdu language? It's so categorical. So you're stuck. You're between a rock and a hard place. So either Allah made decisions according to Mirza due to false stories, or Mirza believed it. Which one is it? Two options. You choose one, or give me a third option. And don't waste our time. Don't go on. Go on. It's your time.
I don't want to waste any time. I think the only thing that I would say is that, I think I have already made the arguments, whatever I could make as an Ahmadi.
No, you haven't. You failed.
According to you, I haven't. That's fine.
Okay, what's your argument? What's your argument?
My argument is that, just as a concluding statement on this, is that I think Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, when he talks about these two things, he's specifically referencing the biblical Jesus, and for people to judge, look, on one second.
You're lying again, Ahmadi. Don't do that.
Let him complete. On alislam.org, right, where his books are there about Christianity in English language. Look, people can read them. For example, The Fountain of Christianity or other books. They can judge for themselves when he talks about these things, because these things, like the references that you have shown, they are mentioned repeatedly in his book. And I'm sure if you read the books, you will come across this reference. You can judge when reading in context that whether he truly believed that the Prophet Hazrat.
Okay, Ahmadi, wait. You're just going on and on. Okay, you gave your answer.
You're preaching now. You're preaching,
now
yes, you're preaching.
in your
Yeah.
now Ahmadi, look at this one. Ahmadi, now in your presence, we are going to make our concluding remarks about the passage we discussed. Now, we both agreed that there is something which is stopping Allah, according to Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, to call Isa as Husuran. You said that these were the stories in circulation about Jesus of alcohol and prostitute connection. These stories were the one which stopped Allah from calling Isa as the Hasuran. Now, very big problem was, as Adnan Bhai was repeatedly saying, and every intelligent Ahmadi has understood this, that if stories were false, they cannot drive Allah's decision. But in this case, Allah did make a decision, according to Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, to not call Isa as Hasuran on the basis of these stories, which are you saying they're false stories. So there's a big problem you have caught into, but you are not, maybe at this time, I can see that, maybe at this time you are not willing to see the problem. Because if stories are true, our point is proven. If stories are false, then they cannot change then they cannot drive Allah's decision. There's no third option. And lastly, this is another reference just to to sign the deal. Okay, यूरोप के लोगों को जिस कदर शराब ने नुकसान पहुंचाया है, इसका सबब तो ये था कि ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम शराब पिया करते थे. Now पिया करते थे, everyone who knows Urdu, पिया करते थे. It's called माजी इस्तिमरारी, that something is happening continuously in the past. Mirza says the reason why alcohol has harmed European societies, because Isa alayhi salam used to drink alcohol, habitual, used to drink alcohol. And then he says because of an illness or because of an old habit. Again, he says
You missed out something very powerful, very important. पिया शराब पिया करते थे शायद किसी बीमारी की वजह से. The word shayad is Mirza's own interpretation and explanation of the phenomenon, because shayad is not based upon a narrative from the past, neither biblical nor Quranic, because shayad means perhaps due to an illness or an old habit. So shayad is Mirza's own interpretation of the phenomenon. And what is the phenomenon? That Isa alayhi salam sharab piya karte the. If Mirza did not believe in this, he would have said, ye jhoot hai, ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है, मिर्जा ईसा अलैहि सलाम शराब नहीं पिया करते थे. What he's saying, he
has
used to,
said this in
no,
other
wait. What he's saying, that he used to drink perhaps because of an illness or an old habit. मगर ऐ मुसलमानों, तुम्हारे नबी अलैहि सलाम तो हर एक नशा से पाक और मासूम थे, जैसा कि वो फिल हकीकत मासूम है. And O Muslims, your prophet was free of all these intoxications and he was innocent. Okay, and in reality he was innocent. So here Mirza is categorically endorsing the view that Isa alayhi salam was a drunkard, शराब पिया करते थे, habitual drinker. And Ahmadi, if you have an atom's weight of honesty and integrity and sincerity, you would concede. You would say, you know what, guys, I'll put my hands up. You have grounds there. You have reasons to claim what you're claiming. You're not just making this up. You're not just playing games. You're not just twisting things. There is stuff there that definitely indicates that Mirza had this belief.
Yeah. And Adnan Bhai, just 1 second. Last thing. Adnan Bhai, look at this one. And if anybody still says that they have doubt if it was Ilzami Jawab or biblical Jesus, inshallah, let me clarify that. Mirza says, हजरत मसीह के इस इकरार से कि मुझे नेक मत कहो बवजह उला गुनाहगार होना साबित होता है. And in the context he mentioned the same sharab thing. He says that this confession, listen everybody, he says that by the confession of Messiah Isa ibn Maryam, when he said do not call me righteous, he says that above and beyond other things, it proves that he was a sinner. And then next thing is very important. बल्कि मसीह की अमली हालतें इन ईमानों पे रोशनी डालकर everybody listen हक्कुल यकीन तक पहुंचाती हैं. Mirza says and the actions of Christ shed light on the same meanings and takes the matter to haqqul yaqeen, last degree of belief. Mirza says that this matter that Isa was drinking alcohol, it has reached to the level of haqqul yaqeen. My dear Ahmadi, who is right now with us, and anybody who's watching or will watch in the future, if something is fake, if something is just a fable, fictitious, can it allow something to reach haqqul yaqeen? And then Mirza says, अव्वल तो मसीह ने यूहन्ना के हाथ पे तौबा का इस्तबाग लिया. He says, first of all, Messiah repented and took baptism at the hand of John. जिसमें, listen very carefully, जिसमें एतराफ़ गुनाह है. And in this baptism and in this repentance, there is a confession of sin. And next thing is extremely important. बस इस्तेबाह क्या लिया, गोया गुनाहगार होने पे मोहर लगा दी. He says that it's not that Jesus took baptism at the hand of Yahya. No, he said this baptism has sealed. It has sealed and stamped the matter that Isa salam was a sinner. And let me repeat, in the context, the discussion is about drinking alcohol.
So there you go. That's it. We have it. So we have not one thing. We have multiple quotes and reasons from Mirza's own writings where he is claiming that Isa salam was a sinner, a habitual sinner, and this reached Hakul Yaqeen. Hakul Yaqeen, by the way, means absolute truth. It means absolute truth without any shadow of doubt that the matter reached the level of absolute certainty that Isa Islam was a sinner, and again, because he was a drunkard and he had contacts with prostitutes. We have shown the evidence in black and white. We have translated it. We have given the references. Those who are sincere, those who want to save themselves from Jahannam, they will do their own research. And those who want to go to Jahannam deliberately, the doors to Jahannam are an option for them. They want to go, they choose to go to Jahannam, by all means do so. Mirza was definitely not a prophet of God. He was definitely a liar, and he made all these things up, and he just made a new religion, and now unfortunately hundreds of thousands of people will burn in hellfire because of him. That's it. There's
okay, now
we
have finished with the discussion, Ahmadi. Because whatever you wanted to say, you said. Whatever as you said already, that people will judge, and the main thing is, because I made a promise that I will show you the reference before you leave, so inshallah I will end with that reference, because I don't want you or anybody think. No, okay, let me just share that reference before you leave, and then inshallah we will take somebody else. Give me just 1 second, because we want to show that reference about Peter. Okay, volume number 3 of Ruhani Khazain, page 106. Petrus यानी पीटर, जिस आखिरी कलमा के साथ मसीह से अलविदा हुआ था, इसने मसीह के रूबरू मसीह पे लानत भेजकर और कसम खाकर कहा कि मैं इस शख्स को नहीं जानता. ऐसी ही और भी बहुत सी पेशनगोइयां हैं जो सही नहीं निकली. एंड देन मिर्जा सेज, मगर ये बात इल्जाम के लायक नहीं है, क्योंकि अमूरे अखबारिया कशफिया में इज्तिहादी गलती अंबिया से हो जाती है. नाउ मिर्जा गुलाम कादियानी इज डूइंग टू थिंग्स. ही इज एक्नॉलेजिंग दिस इवेंट, and then he is giving the reason that it was ijtihadi ghalti. That
this event is mentioned in the Bible.
No, wait. Oh, sorry.
I'm saying this event is
okay, Peter. It says that Peter's last word before he departed with Christ was that he cursed the Christ at his face and swore at him that I do not know this man. Likewise, there are many prophecies which did not come true, but this matter is not worthy of blaming Isa. Why? Because even prophets may make interpretational mistake. Now, Mirza, it's very unfortunate, Ahmadi. I don't know. Wallahi, my heart is just bleeding. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is telling that all the prophets, they make ijtihadi error, and because Isa alayhi salam made ijtihadi errors with regard to his prophecies, and that is what's causing the problem. And then he says, but don't blame Isa alayhi salam, because it happens to all the prophets. One more ref. Hazrat Isa ने अपनी ijtihadi गलती से अपने तई बादशाह बनना यकीन कर लिया और कपड़े बेच के हथियार भी खरीद लिए. यहूदा को बेश्त का एक तख्त भी दिया गया. फिर इसी जमाना में अब आप आसमान से वापस आने का पुख्ता वादा भी किया. आखिर में वो सब पेशेनगोइयां गलत निकली. एंड देन मिर्जा गिव्स द रीजन, पस. When somebody says pus, now he's going to summarize the previous matter. He says, जिस अमर में तमाम अंबिया शरीक हैं और एक भी उनसे बाहर नहीं है, इसको एतराज की सूरत में पेश करना किसी मुत्तकी का काम नहीं है. मिर्जा गुलाम कादियानी is saying that when these things happened to Isa alayhi salam, when he made all of these mistakes, when his prophecies, all of them did not prove to be right, he said, don't blame Isa alayhi salam. Why? Because it happens to all the prophets. This is Ruhani Khazain, volume 22, page 573. And we can go on and on and on. Now, just sweeping all of that under the carpet without using your intelligence, and just keep saying one thing. It was biblical Jesus. Biblical Jesus. I am saying repeatedly, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani believes in all the narrative of the Bible and the gospel regarding Isa alayhi salam. He never said that these things are found about him, but they are not true. And I gave you the example of Isa being put on the cross. It was biblical Jesus. Every people who are watching, listen this point very carefully. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani believes, he believes that Isa was put on the cross. Where did he found this? Biblical Jesus. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani believes that John came in place of Elijah. Where did he get this? Biblical Jesus. What I'm trying to say is that biblical Jesus, the last point, the biblical Jesus and Prophet Isa alayhi salam are one and the same individual, same person, according to Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. And the proof is he's using those biblical Jesus narratives to prove his point. Okay. Now you want to stay in denial, by all means. Okay. If you think that this was not sufficient evidence, no problem. We would not mind. Okay. Stay with your belief. You have every right to believe whatever you want to, but don't try to give the impression, oh, you have answered everything. I have gave that you have did not answer anything.